Hey Giants fans, welcome back to Giants Latest. I think the good news is that we have something to look forward to on Sunday instead of thinking that we're going to get blown out by this impressive 3-0 undefeated Chargers team. So let's go ahead and talk through Jackson Dart, what he's going to bring to this offense that Russell Wilson wasn't able to bring. We're going to talk through Wednesday's injury report, and then we're also going to talk through the locker room because there's something there that needs to be discussed that is very concerning. Let's start with this. So Jackson Dart, that's it. Dable said he's quarterback 1 for the rest of the season. Russell Wilson is quarterback number 2. Jameis Winston is going to stay quarterback 3. He is going to be the inactive quarterback on game day. So in my opinion, the only way that we ever see Russell Wilson is if Jackson Dart does not slide, tries to truck someone over, and gets injured, which unfortunately is something that we probably have to be concerned about. I'm hoping that now that he realizes that this is his job and it's his job moving forward for 14 more weeks that he has to protect himself, that he's really going to focus on sliding or try to get out of bounds. So I'm really hoping that that's one of the biggest things that we see out of him on Sunday is that he makes smart decisions, both when it comes to the ball, throwing it away, not throwing it into traffic if he thinks that window is closing too tightly. Of course, not fumbling, holding on to it, good ball security, and then again, just making smart decisions with his head to get out of bounds. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is this. What is this offense going to look like with Jackson Dart? Because obviously he brings a different element than Russell Wilson does. He's way more mobile. He's able to succeed at the zone reads. He's better in an RPO offense. And, obviously his speed and his size are going to benefit him. And the last thing is he's great about using the middle of the field. Now, that was a concern that we all had about Russell Wilson going into this season. But we really saw that on full display in weeks 1 and in weeks 3. So, that is something that I think is really going to open up the playbook. Now, based on what I've seen from this coaching staff, the way that they have run this offense over the last 3.5, almost 4 years now is I don't have a lot of faith that just because Jackson Dart is going to be there, this is going to be the most creative, different, fun offense we've ever seen. So, let's take it one game at a time here. But like I said, I do think it's going to be different. I think we're going to see plays that we haven't seen. I think we're going to see 10-yard throws across the middle of the field to the tight ends. I think we're going to see, again, that RPO, that no-huddle type of offense that Jackson ran a lot in Ole Miss. I think we're going to see a lot of that, especially this week, just to get him acclimated into his first real game in the NFL against a really good football team. The thing that I really want to see from this offense too, especially from the coaching staff, is they have to figure out how to get the wide receivers open, because you can put some of the blame on the wide receivers at some point, right? They're not all Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Justin Jefferson, but we have Malik Nabers, who is one of the best football players in the NFL, and he's not only good at running one route. This isn't Jalen Hyatt we're talking about, okay? There's a million different ways that they could be utilizing someone like Malik Nabers, and they have to figure out how to do this weekend. So that's what I want to see. I want to see Malik be the number 1 read for Jackson Dart, and if he's not open, then you can go elsewhere. But I really want to see him involved in all different ways, and I hope that this offensive staff can get creative when it comes to that and use him differently. The guy is a freak athlete. He's an incredible wide receiver. Use him strategically and use him the right way, because it's going to be the only way that we can get points on the board this week. The other thing I want to see, heavy screen game. Try it. We're going to have Andrew Thomas back, and maybe he's not going to play every single offensive snap, but he's going to play more than he did last week. You have to establish the screen game. This Chargers defense is not the Chiefs defense. That's not that great against the run. And yes, they had Chris Jones and they had George Karlaftis, but the reality is the Giants were able to run the ball against the Chiefs, which they were not able to do in weeks 1 and weeks 2 versus also not good defenses. So, the offensive line playing better because Andrew Thomas on the field is extremely, extremely important. But they have to utilize that to their advantage, and they have to run a screen game. They have to open up the slants. They have to use the middle of the field and open up ways to get the ball in their playmakers' hands. Now, I expect Turbo to be elevated, and during preseason, we saw a lot of Jackson Dart screens to Turbo Miller. Again, it's preseason, it doesn't matter, but I think that's going to be an element of their game that we're going to see, especially knowing that someone like Turbo has the speed to make plays when he gets the ball in his hands. And I think we're going to see Jackson Dart running a lot. I think we're also going to see a lot of aside from the RPO game, we're going to see a lot of quarterback runs, designed quarterback runs. Now, we saw that a little bit with Russell Wilson. We saw the zone read fiasco that worked with Jackson Dart and then didn't work with Russell Wilson. I think we're going to see a little bit more success from the zone reads, the RPOs like we saw with Jackson before, and then of course those quarterback runs. When he sees holes, he's able to get open, he's got the speed, and he's bigger. So obviously he can see the middle of the field better, which is going to help the vision-wise for the runs. So I definitely think the offense is going to be open up. I think it's going to look different, but we're going against a really tough Chargers team, so I don't think this Giants team is going to go out there and put up 35 points against them. So I'm tapering my expectations. I'm going in there hoping for the best, expecting it to be a little bit of a rough go, but we'll see how it turns out. I want to talk through the injury report on Wednesday because there are a couple players that we definitely need to discuss. So these are the 5 players that did not practice yesterday. Graham Gano, who's dealing with a groin injury. Now, he was not moved to IR yet, but the Giants did sign the former Falcons kicker, Younghoe Koo. He's on the practice squad right now. He is battling it out and in competition with Jude McAdamney, as he's the international kicker that the Giants have on the practice squad. Those two are battling out to be kicker number 1, who gets elevated to the roster on Sunday. So we'll watch that as the week goes on. We'll probably have a final answer on Saturday when we see the practice squad elevations. Next up, we have Malik Neighbors. Now, I am not worried about Malik Neighbors. He got trucked and run over. I don't know if it's the same shoulder that was injured during the training camp, but that injury was not serious. He was back at practice not that long after. So I don't know if it's the same shoulder. That has not been announced by the Giants, and I'm sure it will not be. But, he took that big hit in the end zone. So I think he's okay. They're just limiting his snaps. I'm not worried about him for Sunday. Also, when he spoke to the media, he said he knows that they're going to get him the ball on Sunday. So I don't think anyone's worried about him. Now, Tyrone Tracy also did not practice. They have not moved him to IR yet, but he's going to be out anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, so it will not surprise me if he gets bumped to IR. Next up is Nacho, who's dealing with a foot injury. Last week, Nacho went from did not practice to limited practice, so the fact that he did not practice on Wednesday, which I'm assuming is their only padded practice of the week, that's usually the case for the Giants. I think that I'm not sure that we're going to see Nacho on Sunday, so I'm curious to see how that goes. We'll see as the rest of the week if he ends up being a limited practice or not. Lastly, we have to talk about Theo Johnson here because Theo Johnson did not practice with a toe injury. And with that being said, I'm not so sure that we're going to see him on Sunday. And to be honest, I'm not excited by his play as of late. I would much rather see Daniel Bellinger be the pass catcher for their tight end. So, if Theo Johnson doesn't play, I personally don't think it's the end of the world. I think we're going to see a lot more Daniel Bellinger, and I think that Chris Manhertz is going to continue to be used as that blocking tight end, and I think we could be in good shape. Now, the one thing that they might do is if Theo Johnson is not active on game day is they might elevate Thomas Fidone, so we can keep our eyes peeled on him, see if he gets any snaps. The rest of the players here were listed as limited on Wednesday's practice. Demetrius Flanagan, Foles, Chauncey Golston, Art Green, Darius Muasau, John Michael Schmitz, Darius Slayton, Andrew Thomas. I'm not worried about any of those players. I think they're all going to play. And I think the best news coming out of this limited group is the fact that Darius Muasau with his concussion is back at practice. Now, Darius Muasau is not Micah McFadden. We all know that. But he's also a lot better than Swayze Bozeman, who was the linebacker that basically was signed from the practice squad 3 days before the Cowboys game, and kind of got exploited there and then ended up playing last week and, was just okay. So I think Darius Muasau being back on Sunday is definitely going to be an improvement into this linebacking core. So I'll keep you guys posted on that. We'll talk more about it as the week goes on if he continues to be limited, but definitely heading in the right direction and definitely a good thing for the Giants if he is back on the field. The last thing I want to talk about today is this, because I think this is extremely concerning. Both Cam Scatterbo and Wan'Dale Robinson, when they spoke to the media on Wednesday, they were asked about how they found out about the quarterback change. And they said that they found out on social media like everyone else. Now, I have a huge problem with that because it sounds like the Giants made the decision on Monday when the players were in the building. Now, I thought they made the decision Tuesday, but I heard from a well-respected beat writer that I trust, Chris Bisignano, that they made the decision on Monday. They tell the media on Tuesday, which is the players' off day. The players are off every single Tuesday across the NFL as long as they're not playing on Thursday. So they knew the Giants players were going to be out of the building, and it was leaked to the media. Now, I don't know if they purposely leaked it to the media. I don't know how that went down, but in my opinion, if they made that decision on Monday and they told Russ and they told Jackson, everyone in the building, or a good portion of people in the building knew that that was the case. So you are running the risk of that getting out to the media the next day when the players are off. So you don't think it's odd? You don't want to communicate with your players that, oh, hey, we're making a really big decision here. We're going from a 10-time Pro Bowler who has not played well, okay? But you're going from your veteran quarterback that you brought in this offseason that everyone has been raving about, who's going through a tough stretch. You are benching him for a rookie quarterback who just 2 weeks ago, Adam Schefter reported, was not ready to play and that they were not planning to play him anytime soon. And they are focusing on Russ being the starter and Jackson learning, and that maybe we'll see Jackson Dart later this season, but they are not rushing him out there. That is so concerning to me that Brian Daboll did not communicate with his entire team, especially the offense, the players who are coming into practice on Wednesday expecting to see Russ Wilson out there with the ones, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, hey, Jackson, what are you doing here? And Brian Daboll's like, oh, hey, yeah, we made a quarterback switch. That is the most insane thing I've ever heard. All we hear from this coaching staff is they preach communication. Communication is the number one thing. That's what they're all worried about, focusing on communication. And then you go out and do something like that? Absolutely mind-boggling to me. I think that is so bizarre. I think if there are already cracks in the locker room, this is not the way to make it better. You're only making it worse. I cannot understand for the life of me why that decision went through his head and he said, we're just going to wait till practice on Monday and hope it doesn't get out on Tuesday. Okay, let your players find out on social media, and I'm sure they're all calling each other and calling the coach like, what the hell is going on? Not weird at all. Not weird at all. I know we have a lot of issues with this coaching staff, but this is something, it's stuff like this that just tacks on, right? And in the grand scheme of things, look, maybe it's not that important at the end of the day, but in my opinion, it shows that there is not good communication between the coaching staff and the players. And if you're a player, I don't know, how could you trust your coach going into practice and being like, hey, by the way, we made a quarterback switch in a game where we're going against the number one red zone defense and we're going against an undefeated team on Sunday. And again, maybe stuff like that and the details don't matter, but the details are a huge part as to why this team is 0-3 and why they have been embarrassing to watch for the last 2 out of 3 years. Now we're going on year 3 out of 4. So I don't know. I think maybe it would have been the smart thing to tell your players after you had that conversation with the quarterbacks, and maybe you say to them, hey, this is what we're doing. We're not telling the media. You can discuss it on Wednesday when we're all back in the building. This is the decision that we made. If you have any questions, let me know. That's how I would have done it. I think it's very odd that they didn't do it that way. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Tomorrow, we are going to talk more about the Chargers game, and we are going to talk about players to watch, so subscribe for more.